Hello, I'm Otto, and welcome to episode 47 of my Factorio Space Age Guide. So in the last episode, we kind of went over some train basics, and I kind of described like what it would be like if you set up the basic section or the basic trains. So in this episode, and then we also set up a shunting yard, which is going to be very helpful for us. So in this episode, we are going to go through some of the more complicated aspects of trains. I have a few things set up here. Obviously, we are going to be kind of showing this off and testing some different things. So let's start with the shunting yard. So we already set this up, but I just want to go over kind of like what is actually going on here. So we have each of these train stops. They're all 20 of them are named shunting. We've enabled a train limit of 1, and we want them to all be connected with the green circuit wire and sending their signal to the train, or sending the signal to the train. So when we actually set this up inside of our world, we will actually want this to be connected to all of the city blocks because they all have the green line going. And I did describe how you could, if you wanted to, instead of doing the whole like green and red circuits, you could set this up with a radar. You just need that signal to go out that way instead. So I have this little setup here because we're going to go through all of the different train stuff for the complicated version. So there's a few things that we need to know first, and thankfully all of the materials that we will end up using, iron, copper, coal, and stone, they all stack to 50, so that's going to make the math on this pretty easy. And that is something that we really need to know. And the reason why is because the train cargo wagons can only hold a certain amount of stacks, and each one of these rows is 10 stacks, so 10, 20, 30, 40 stacks for each cargo wagon. So if all of this was filled up with any one of these, this would be a capacity of 2,000, 500 per row. If we look in one of the chests, you can see that this is 10, 20, 30, 40, and 8 stacks because we're missing 2 on the end here. So this isn't necessarily something that you have to know or need to know. It's just something that's kind of relevant, and I'll explain why, because we're going to end up limiting these, and that will be the determining factor, is how much can actually be stored in these. Okay, so what is the goal? I think I just briefly went over like some of the scheduling. So when we are dealing with the train, we want its main schedule to be shunting. So if it's literally not doing anything else, it's going to end up at the shunting yard. And then we have different interrupts. I think I just called this one, I named it provider. We are not going to name it provider when we get into the world. You know what? Actually, we're actually just going to name it. So I had this idea and this concept, and I kind of tested it out a little bit. It does kind of have one little setback, but it's not a big deal. It's something that we can easily get around. So I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Like, can I set these up depending on which planet we visit? And I think the answer to that is yes. So to kind of coordinate that, what we would need is to have a way to indicate what planet we're on. So I'm going to actually name this novice and provider. So that is going to be the name. Instead of provider, we're going to name this novice provider. And the reason why is because we are going to parameterize the train, and the novice symbol, the planet symbol, will be the only parameter that we end up changing. Okay, so the conditions for novice were, so we needed a circuit condition and empty cargo, and we needed this a couple times. So I'm just gonna slap these down a couple times. We only have 4 items, so every other one needs to be an OR. So we need brackets for empty cargo and a circuit, some kind of circuit I don't actually know. I haven't tested yet, but I don't actually know if they prefer to check in order. I assume the answer is yes. So we're going to put whatever our highest priority item is first, which is iron ore. And we're going to want a circuit condition that is greater than 0 and an empty cargo for this interrupt to take effect. The second one would be, nope, copper. So I'm going to set that to copper. This one probably coal. I'm getting, yeah, sure. Coal and stone are probably about the same, but iron is definitely going to be, iron and copper are definitely the most important. So these are the circuit conditions that we've set. Anytime the train reads any one of these signals and it has an empty cargo, which is when it's, hopefully when it's going to be in the shunting station, although we can kind of set this up to make it so that it doesn't necessarily have to go to the shunting station. Anyways, we'll get into that in a minute. So then once it reads one of these symbols or signals, what does it need to do? So it needs to then go to, I don't think we have any that are listed. We are just going to list it as passive provider chest. That is it. Wait, nope. There. And the wait condition is wait until you have full cargo. So this will work with like anything. It doesn't matter what item is being picked up. They can all be named the exact same thing and the trains will function normally. So we're going to save that. And then we're going to add a second interrupt of novice and requester chest. So this interrupt is going to be pretty much only at our train hub. The conditions for this are we either want you to have full cargo or we want you to have, set this to or. So, or we want you to have some type of, oh, wait a minute. I shouldn't have done that with the, okay. Abort. This is not novice. Requester chest. This is not. I knew I shouldn't have named these like this. Anyways. Oh, you know what? Okay, sorry. It is going to be fine that way. It's not the name that we need to worry about. It's the target that we need to worry about. Okay, so anyways. We need an item. Whatever item that it has needs to be greater than 0. So if it has a full cargo, it will go to the requested station, or if it has an item count at all, basically, it will go to the station. So the station that we want it to go to, this is where we add in item parameter and requester chest, because this is how we indicate to the train where it needs to go. It will determine what item it has, and then once it decides that it has that item, let's say that it has stone, this becomes stone requester chest, and then it will go then to whatever stone requester chest station we have, and it will stay there until it has empty cargo. And it can literally stay there as long as it wants. We don't really care about that. We don't have any other conditions. Just stay there until you're empty, pretty much. And we're going to save that. So this is kind of, we're going to call this novice solid train. So there's a good reason why I'm doing this. One of the other ideas that I had, let me get out of map view, was that we kind of have to have a way. So unfortunately, you can't, to my knowledge, you can't actually create a train group without the train group already being on the map. So I can assign this to solid trains. I can end up leaving it like this and I can blueprint it like that, but I can't It's kind of weird. I can't make the parameter. I can make a blueprint, but I can't make the parameter happen unless the train group is active. So we will need a train group to be able to accomplish what I'm thinking about. So this one would be a completely different group, and we would name that, for instance, Vulcanus solid train. And the main reason that why I'm doing it like this is because I don't want to have a separate. Okay, let me clarify. I can set these train groups up in a blueprint, but my aim is I want a single parameterized train blueprint that we can place at maybe 2, because we're going to have one for solids and one for liquids eventually. And I want a single train blueprint that no matter what planet I'm on, I can stamp it down and tell it, have the parameters set to what planet we're on, and that's it. I don't want to have to worry about, did I set up the iron ore, the copper ore, the stone, the coal on novice, or did I set up the coal or the calcite or the tungsten ore on Vulcanus? Like, we're just going to make it so that you stamp it down, you tell it what planet it's on, everything else is going to function perfectly after that. So in this train group, we have novice requester, and okay, so we have shunting, we have novice request, we have novice provider, sorry, novice request. We're only going to set up the Vulcanus one for now. There are some planets that will have solids, some that won't. Like Aquilo, you largely don't deal with solids, and we won't really need solid trains. We will need liquid trains if we use trains, which I'm thinking we will. The only one that really doesn't make sense to make trains is Gleba. Gleba is just kind of one of those weird planets where, we'll get there. So we're going to have probably a shunting station. It's going to be smaller on other planets, so we will not use this large one. We will just make a separate one if we end up using something. And I'll also show you like how this is going to work before we leave the creative mode. We're just creating the train group at the moment. So shunting and its interrupt will be Vulcanus provider, and the conditions for this one will be completely different. So we need circuit condition, empty cargo, circuit condition, empty cargo, circuit condition, and empty cargo. So we need 3, and we need to make sure that they are bracketed together. Greater than, greater than, greater than. So we need a circuit signal for calcite. We need a circuit signal for coal. And we need a circuit signal for tungsten ore. And our target destination is just simply provider chest. Is just simply provider chest. There we go. And we are going to stay until full cargo. So that is the Vulcanus provider. Now we need a Vulcanus requester. I don't know if we will do a train hub. We might, and it'll be, again, same thing, different from this one, smaller for sure. So what are the interrupt conditions for this? So we either want full cargo, or we want item count, item parameter is greater than 0, and then we want to go to item parameter and requester, and wait until we are empty cargo. Save interrupt. And now we have created 2 separate train groups. So once we get to the point where we can stamp down trains, actually, let me just show you that real quick. So I want to make a blueprint of a train. And I want this to be named for now, let's just use a planet that we're not going to. So I don't know, solar system edge. We're not going to make any trains there anyways. So if I wanted to make a parameter, oh, I need to actually set this up in a group. Hold on. So let's do the same thing. And I'm intentionally using something different because we don't want to make this any more confusing than it might already be. So that's going to be our parameters, this train group. So I'm going to make a blueprint again. Actually, the name doesn't really matter. We just need the parameter. So we now have this train group icon. We're going to make it a parameter, and we're just going to ask it what planet, and create. So now we have this blueprint, and I'm just going to put it on my bars so that we can keep up with it. So whenever I go to stamp this eventual blueprint, it's going to ask what planet. I'm going to say novice. And when it stamps this down, it has set up all the parameters that we need here. And then if I use the same blueprint and stamp it and say, well, we want Vulcanus, now it has set up all the other parameters that we have set up. So that's what we're kind of aiming for. We're going to make blueprints for all the planets. All that is required is that a train with this train group be created somewhere. So if I, for instance, oh, no, I want to copy this. Nope, I want to copy the train. Ah, can I not just copy the train? All right, I'll make a blueprint of this train. So for instance, if I now wanted to try to do the same thing, there's nothing here. We have to have had that train group created already somewhere. So now I can put that one back. That is all set up like we had it. And now I can do Vulcanus again, and that train group is there. So that's kind of why we're setting up this initial blueprint. And again, I'm not like, we're going to just do these two for now. I'll eventually go through and add maybe Fulgora, because Fulgora, wow. Fulgora only has basically one item to be mined, but I haven't quite decided yet if we're going to make, I don't know. We'll get there. We can also do liquids. We can do liquids for Novice. We can do liquids for Vulcanus. We can do liquids for... not real. I'm not going to worry about Fulgora that much. But definitely liquids on Aquilo. So yeah, that's the general idea on how that is going to work. So I will have this blueprint. Can I nudge you forward a little bit? No. And that way we are going to parameterize our 1x2 train. We can stamp it down, tell it, you know, what planet we're on, and it is good to go. It just goes. Okay, so back to kind of what we were doing. So we have all of these input signals, or these circuit conditions. How do we make the circuit conditions happen? So this is where things might get a little bit more complicated. We want to set up combinators to be at, let's say, the coal requester section for our train hub. And we want to set up combinators to read the contents of the chest, and then have a predetermined amount that we want to have be here. Tell the train station how many trains it needs to have. Let the train station tell us how many trains are here and or on the way. And if there are, if we don't have any trains on the way, or if we don't have enough trains here at the moment or waiting for us, we need to send out the signal to have trains come in. So we're going to use that here. And we're going to talk a little bit more about like the sizes. So we know that this is 10, 10, 10. So this is 40 stacks. This is 2,000 total. So between these two, we have 4,000. This is our capacity for the items that we have on Novice, 4,000. So we are going to parameterize the train station and this section here, as well as put some combinators down. So let's just go through the combinators first. So we are going to use, and there might be a different way to do this. This is just how I'm used to it. This is the way my brain likes to think about it. So this is how I'm going to show you. So we're going to have a combinator, and we are going to tell it that we want a certain amount of ore. For now, we're just going to use the iron ore symbol. When we parameterize this, we are not going to use this symbol. So how do we know how much ore we want or need? And we're, again, setting something up for the train hub. This, like, don't think of this as being like a mining outpost or anything like this. This is a mock version of the train hub. And I turned my alt off somehow. Okay. So based on this, we know that this can hold 4,000 of an item that stacks to 50. And we want at least probably 2 trains worth to be either incoming or on the way or here, so that when this train leaves, there is one behind it ready to go to come in to fill that section. I tend to prefer something more like 2.5 trains. So 4,000 times 2 is 8,000. And an extra half, which would be 1 cargo wagon, is 10,000. So we are going to end up requesting in 10,000 ore. And so this is what we want. How do we know how much we have? We are going to figure that out, we are going to connect all of the chests together with the red circuit wire, all of them. So now, if I were to, for instance, put 50 ore here, I can look at the, you can see in the bottom right, I can see that there are 50 on the red wire, on the red signal. Likewise, I could have, let's just say, set this up like this. Same thing here. I set this up to the green. Now I can look over and see that we have 50 iron ore on the red signal and 50 iron ore on the green signal. We are going to largely only be using red within this blueprint until we have to export something to the network, and then we will use the green wire. Maybe an exception to that, if you're just generally fiddling around with combinators, would be like if you had to, I don't know, connect the input to the output. That's maybe a situation where you would need a different color wire. Anyways, again, this is just kind of how my brain works through this. So to have what we have, so this is adding up basically everything that we have here, and I can, I guess, demonstrate that as well. If we had 50 in these 3, if I scroll over this, now we have 126. Oh, these. Yep, my bad. That's that's why I had removed the. Get back here. That's why I had removed the inserter here, was because I knew that they were going to try to throw this out. Anyways, you get the idea. Now I can look over and see there's 50. You saw earlier there was 126. So yes, this is calculating everything that we have in all of these chests together. So we need to add these up and have a difference between what we have versus what we want. And the way that we're going to do that is with an arithmetic combinator. So we're going to take the red circuit and add it to the rear of the arithmetic combinator. So now this is going to be bringing in on the red signal. You can see over there on the right. On the red signal, this is going to be bringing in how many we have in storage. So what we want to do is we want to say for any, or for each, this icon here, for each of the signals coming in, we want to multiply this times -1, and then output each. So if we had like 10 different signals coming in, it would multiply each of them by -1, and then it would output each of those signals as a negative. So you can see here the output signal is -50. And if we were to take this, I don't know, I'm just going to connect it here and then go back in, it should have, oh, anyways, doesn't matter which, like, I guess you can't select it. That's fine. Whatever wire you have coming out will broadcast that signal. So now we have what we have stored turned into a negative, and then we have a positive here. So now we can just connect the two together. I'm going to actually cut this and move it over this way. I want to try to keep this a little spaced out so we're not too confused. And then we will tighten it all together afterwards. So to kind of pair those two together, like we're going to add them both of the signals to the back of this combinator. And you will see whenever I scroll over it that it now says 9,999, but we could have done the same thing. Like these are just going to naturally tally themselves together. If I were to connect them to this pole, same thing. Because this is a negative, it is just automatically subtracting itself from the positive. But we're going to add those to this, another arithmetic combinator, because we want to have the train station set its own limit, and it is going to intentionally bring in however many trains that are needed to fill up our chests here. So the way that we do that is we're going to take the each symbol again. So after these two, what we want and what is stored are summed together. This will give us the difference of what we want versus what we have. So if, for instance, I were to fill this up with, what is that, 1,000, you can see that now we have a difference of 9,000. So we have room for what we want to be able to bring in another 9,000. Well, we know that this train can store 4,000. So we're going to take each of this and divide it by 4,000. Because this is now the size of a train, the full capacity of the train. And this is going to output L. And the reason why we are outputting the symbol L is because when we attach this to the train station, we can tell the train station to set, or this is going to set train limit. So instead of manually setting how many trains we want to come in, we set the train limit, and you need the L input to have it set its own train limit. So now, if we were to, let me just put a power pole out here. If we were to then send this out here, we can scroll over this and see that the train itself is outputting the L symbol. Well, I mean, this is outputting the L symbol, but it's, you know, broadcast through the red wiring. So now we have an L signal coming out, let's just say between the two of these. Now we need something that says, okay, we want to be able to broadcast a signal out onto the main line to indicate to the trains and other, like let's say the mining outposts, that, hey, we are missing a bunch, we kind of need some more. So I'm going to pull this one closer again. Try not to get too confused with this. Like maybe I should... So storage is going into this combinator. It's doing the math to make these negative. Constant combinator is sending out how much we want. These two are being totaled together at the rear. They just naturally total. And this is being processed into, okay, with the difference of what we want versus how much we have, how many trains can we now bring in to fill what we want total here. So now we need a way for all of this to send out a signal, and we are going to do that with a decider combinator. So sorry, wife just got home. So we can also read the train count inside the train stop. So what the train count is if we, here, reads the number of trains going to this particular train stop, includes the stopped train. So we have a train here. So this C will end up being currently, well, we manually set this down, so this is kind of a bad example, but let's back this up a little bit and tell it to go no, to this train station name. There. Now if we scroll over this, you can see that C equals 1, or it has a train count of 1, because there is one train station currently at this train stop. So we want the train count to also come down into the decider combinator, as well as the L symbol. So we want all of that signal to come in through the decider. So now you can see that we have an L of 2 because we can fit 2 trains in storage over here. We have a C count of 1 because there is a train currently at the train station. So what we want is, if the capacity, which is L, if the capacity is greater than the amount of trains that are coming in, if the capacity is greater than the amount of trains that are coming in, which is the C, then we want to output whatever the item is that we have or want, which is stone ore, and give it 1. That's all we need, is just 1. We don't care about the input. We don't like none of this. We want this, the symbol for what we have, and output 1. And then this is what we are going to export onto the main line. So now that we have the green wire, I can scroll over this and show you that we have a iron ore count of 1, because because we have capacity, it is now going to broadcast this. If I, just for the sake of argument, let's drop this to 2,000 because I have 2,000 over there. Now it's not going to show anything because we do not have the capacity for it. And I hope that didn't confuse you, but... And it doesn't matter, like, we don't care if the train capacity was, like, we needed 4 trains. All we need is to send the signal out. And then that would go on to the main line. Really? So as long as you can scroll over this combinator and you can see all of the other wiring flare up, then you are good to go. You could have also used a radar and set it up this way if you preferred that instead of having all these wires. And then we're going to take all of this and just kind of condense it all down together. Because don't forget, we do have belts coming through here, so we kind of want to keep it a little bit tight. It needs to fit within this area here. Okay, so now we have the ability to send out a signal. We're not going to do this bit manually from now on. We're going to eventually, at the end of this episode, we're going to parameterize this. So now we have 2 things. One, why did none of this connect? That signal should have come down to... Oh, okay, it is. Okay, we're still good. It's just not being broadcast through the trains. Anyways, so the trains that are sitting at the shunting station will now receive this signal, and that will allow them to activate, because we have the conditions of this. If the symbol that we have coming in is greater than 0, then this will allow them to activate this interrupt, and they will go from being at the shunting station to heading towards whichever station is in need of this. And we're going to also do something else. We are going to connect whatever mining post or mining outpost is mining that item. So in this case, we have iron ore here. We're going to tell that mining outpost to enable if that symbol is greater than 0. So now you can see that this train station is enabled, but if we did not have that symbol, excuse me, what else am I going to, oh, sorry, the radar. Oh my goodness. So now you can see that this train, or this train station is disabled because it is not receiving that signal. And then if we were to add it back in, out of map view so I don't ghost things down. So now this is enabled. So what will end up happening is we are going to set this manually to 2. We could do more. So this train stacker with 2 stations here will allow for 1 here and 2. So we could technically set this to 3. You know what? We're going to set it to 3. We have 4 stackers. A 4 stacker. Let's utilize it. So now what that'll do is the train station will turn off, and once it receives the signal, it activates and immediately requests in 3 trains if it doesn't already have some here. And that's kind of how the whole thing like pieces together and works. Train hub sends out the signal whenever it has the capacity to bring in more, or our set capacity to bring in more. The trains receive the signal from shunting and start heading towards the provider stations. The provider stations, receiving the same signal, turn themselves on to allow those trains to actually make it to them. And then once the order is fulfilled, the train turns off and the count goes down because we no longer need the capacity for them. One other thing is I mentioned that these can hold 48 and we're requesting in 10,000. So we don't want a situation where, let's say 2 or 3 of these contained all 10,000. So we are going to limit these chests to 2 stacks each. And what will end up happening with our layout here, the way that we're removing these, is this chest, and these 2 chests here will be the first ones to empty. This chest and this chest will probably end up with the bulk of what you have, so we could, if we wanted to, lower both of those. You know, that's an option. And that still gives us 1.5, 2.5, 3, 4, 5,000. So that actually gives us exactly the 10,000 total. So yeah, that is how that works. Okay, so now we need to kind of parameterize some of this. So the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to take the train station here. Okay, so we're not parameterizing anything in the hub. All of that is going to be set up by itself. But we can parameterize, let's say, the this whole system here. So we can just copy all of this. What I actually want though is, no, abort. The way that we're going to set up parameters is we want each of the items that we want to have just, we could use iron ore, but you know what? All right, let's just not be confusing and use iron ore. And then we're going to filter all these. So the iron ore symbol doesn't actually really matter that much. So we're going to make a blueprint of these. Like this. And now we have the iron ore signal in here. The iron ore signal in here. And these are filtered for the iron ore signal. So when we parameterize this, we are going to make the iron ore signal a parameter. And let's just say that this is, yeah, this is requesting in iron. So what are you requesting? And that will allow us to set what this item is. So just to kind of, I'm going to do too much with this. So let's say that we wanted to line it up here. What are we requesting in? Well, this was stone. So now it will, the parameterization will set all of this to stone. We're requesting in 10,000 stone. 10,000 stone because we have none saved up. It's going to set a train limit of 2. 2 is greater than the train count that we have coming in, which is nothing, and it's going to output the stone signal onto the network. So if we scroll over this, we can... we did not connect any of this, actually. Sorry. Oh, do I really want to set this in with the... Okay, you know what? Let's do it, because then we don't have to worry too much about some of the connections that we have here. And actually, I'm going to connect the decider combinator to the first power pole. That way we can just chain all these power poles together in the front and send the signal out. Okay, so let's just do what we just did again. So we actually need to name this one this time. So we need to name this the iron ore and requester chest. Not E. Oh, I'm so bad about that. So let's make a blueprint with this. Copy all of that. And parameterize that again. The iron ore is the parameter. What are we requesting? Create blueprint. I'm going to put this on my bars this time. So now if you remember, this was stone, iron, 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 copper, 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 iron, 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 stone, coal. So we will be able to go through and say that this one is stone, this one is iron, this one is iron, iron, copper, copper, copper. I hope I'm not missing any of these. It looks like I'm fine. Iron, 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 stone, and coal. So now whenever we go look at these, you can see that all of the inserters are set up for the items that we were requesting in. That one is still set up as coal and stone. This one is iron, so all of these are fine. And we needed to make sure that the train limits were set, read train count, so that is good. And since we connected all of these to the green signal, we just want to go through and connect all of these small, medium electric power poles to the green network. And then somewhere on the front side, we would need to connect this. Is this going to reach? No? All right, we can use this one as a middleman. And now we should see that there is, let's say, 7 iron, 3 copper, 2 stone, and a coal, minus this one, being broadcast on the network. So, yep. And we only need one of those to activate, or one of those to send their signal out to activate whatever mining outpost is going to be associated with that symbol. So I guess I can probably just save that. What did I... That is not the one. Where'd it go? This one. Okay, so that is the parameterization for the train hub. Now let's do one for the mining outpost. I was gonna kind of show you an example of how some of this works. I can maybe still do that, but I want to set these parameters up. In the example that I was going to give, these were going to be 2 different icons, but in this case, we are making both of these train stations the same thing. And they are just simply going to be provider chest, not E. Copy and paste. The filtering doesn't matter. We don't need to limit these. We don't need to know what's in them. We don't need anything. All we need to know is that this train station, while it is connected to the network, so this one is connected to this power pole, we will, you know what, we'll probably have to manually set these up each time, unless we did attach this to our city block blueprint, which we kind of don't want to do because we don't know which direction it's going to be. So just to kind of avoid anything, this will need to be connected to the main line at some point. But this is going to be the parameter item. This is the only parameter item that we're going to have. And this item is going to be greater than 0. I suppose, yeah, it can send a train. That's fine. That means that... Actually, these could have been sent to train too. Yeah, these are. So I believe that means that if a train leaves this location, it could actually end up in a mining location without going to shunting first. We don't need to know anything else. We just need to be able to enable if the symbol coming in is greater than 0. So if we copy, let's just Alt B to make a blueprint. So if we make a blueprint of all of this, we kind of don't want to catch any curves. So we only want the train station, basically, and all of the items, all of the collecting items. We're going to parameterize this, and this is the only parameter. What is being provided? Okay, we can name it later. I don't know. Stone is being provided, and stone is being provided. Sure. But just to kind of showcase the differences. So again, nothing was parameterized here, but the train station itself is now set for stone. This one is set for copper. In the real world, we would have both of these be the exact same, but we can still just have this. Oh no, did I not? Yep, don't mind me. Let's just do this again real quick. Oh, you know what? It's in my bags. Whatever. And I want them on my actual blueprint book anyways. Yeah, I'm just gonna, this was some testing that I was doing earlier. I guess that was also a test. Anyways, whatever. And this one. Oh, I thought I named it. There. Okay, and the last thing that we want to do is parameterize a train. I do not want this in here. I do not want, I do want shunting. Okay, so I'm going to remove that train, add it back. I'm going to give it some fuel. We're going to maybe set it up so that it has to accept at least like a stack of rocket fuel. So what we're parameterizing is the planet. So I'm going to Alt B to make a copy or make a blueprint of the train. So now this, because we have this one set up, which we will also need to make a blueprint of. Oh geez, where did it go? We tell it what planet. Then it has these set up. Do it again. Nope. Hey, where do you think you're going? Why? Oh, he's going to coal. Haha. What? He's going to shunting. Oh, because I gave it fuel. Wait. Why are you not doing... I did not give it a shunting station? Because this guy doesn't have shunting. Mm-hmm. I actually don't really care that these are lined up or not. Okay, so I'm just gonna, like, we can always add to this, so I'm gonna make a blueprint out of this as well. We need to enable the trains to go along with it. And we will just call this train group, train groups. Hey, so that is gonna be it for this episode. If you've been enjoying my content, well, you know what to do. We are going to, in the next episode, we are going to jump in back into our world, and we're going to start placing some of these blueprints. We're going to make sure that the train hub combinators are all set up right. We're going to make sure that some of the mining outposts that we've been dropping have, you know, they're being parameterized properly. My alt keeps getting turned off. Anyways, so yeah, that is going to be it for this episode. I will see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.